I'm Vishnu Arunachalam. I'm the technology lead for the UK region, working for Searce. Primary responsibilities are around the pre-sales and also a liaison to our delivery team back in India.
Great, thanks, Vish. And Hazel, obviously we have met in the past, so I lead the UK business for Searce from London.
Right.
And so Hazel, do you want to, let's get started. Do you want to start off with let's talk about Nimbla first, right? Like, what does Nimbla do, and what's the business model, and your role at Nimbla, if that's okay.
Okay, so I am the CTO of Nimbla. So Nimble itself is almost, I would say, a little bit of a disruptor in the market. So we offer a bit of a niche in the insurance arena. So what we generally do is we offer a single invoice insurance to SMEs. So if you think about invoice insurance for companies and that, it's usually on a whole book or whole turnover basis. And your larger insurance companies like your AIGs and things like that will cover a whole book. We have taken it one step further and offer them for the smaller companies, because they can't afford whole book insurance, is on an invoice by invoice basis. They can look at that and see which ones are at risk for their business, and they can insure against that. So it helps them with their cash flow and being able to conduct this business a lot quicker and easier. Now, if you look at the way that our model works, is we are fully in the cloud. So traditionally, if you look at insurance, people will ask for a quote, they'll go away, they'll assess risk, and they'll look at the book and things like that and come back with quotes on how much it will cost you to insure. Ours is all digital, it's all online, and we can offer a quote back within minutes. So we can speed up that process. We have algorithms that we have created which will calculate these risks based on multiple sources that we pull in real time. So it can help the SMEs to speed up their process and make sure that they are selling basically and continuing their business without any fallback basically.
Makes sense. So real time, invoice insurance for SMEs.
Yes.
Right. And what inspired Nimbla? Like, where did that, how did Nimbla happen?
So Nimbla itself was built by CEO Fleming Bengston. He has been in the industry for many years, and this was a brainchild of his. And he started up this business to specifically assist SMEs. I think in his history, his father dealt a lot in trade credit, so he understood what the challenges were around for the SMEs out there and where the gap was, and he came into the market to fill that gap.
Makes sense. And if I describe the term digital natives, does that mean anything to you?
Yes, I've heard of digital natives before. So I understand digital natives. I mean, it just came more out. I think it was a guy called Mark something or other. I can't remember his name, but he was more in education, and he sort of came up with the term, or described the term digital natives for the children that had been born with digital era in their heads. They were only used to that sort of thing. I think it's been morphed a little bit more on the business side now to say whether a company is a digital native or prior to digital native. I don't know what they call that. It's also got a specific term about that, and businesses are classified in those two different categories.
Yeah. So and that's absolutely right. So we kind of we use this term a lot now in the cloud ecosystem, and digital natives are basically any business which basically is creating value with digital as the primary channel, right? And and typically it's the startups to scale-ups to unicorns, to post IPO, tech titans falling in the definition. So would you describe Nimbla as a digital native then?
Oh, definitely. I would say we definitely business was born in the cloud and has been in the cloud. We've been going for 5 years now, so everything we've done is cloud based.
Sure. There is the other term that gets used a lot in the industry overall is digital transformation, right? And different people have different interpretation of digital transformation, but it's normally used in context of large organizations. However, how would you describe digital transformation for a digital native business? What does digital transformation mean for a digital native business such as Nimbla?
So my understanding of digital transfer, as you say, it's about going through that digital journey, if I can say that. And it's traditionally been used in more older legacy companies where they're trying to digitalize their processes from one end to the other. And that's what you call a digital transformation program. I think with cloud native businesses like we are, you can still have your digital transformation programs. So although you are a digital business, there is certain elements that you're going to be coming up with, new products that you want to digitize, and things that you might want to improve, although they are digital. And that I still see as a digital transformation program. So you've still got to go through all the basic steps of how you're going to utilize your IT, and is it part of your strategy, and have you got the vision in place? Where are you going to with that digital journey? I think something that people do tend to lose focus of when it comes to digital transformation journeys is the fact that it's not something that's really going to end. You have to keep it going the whole time to make sure that you're staying relevant in the market, that you're staying up to date with the new technology that's out there. So you've got to make sure that it's a continuous improvement cycle that you're going through. You're not going to put in a digital transformation program and say, I'm going to be finished in 2 years' time, because that's not going to work in 2 years' time. Your technology has changed so much, your business isn't relevant again. So you have to keep going through and improving that on a continual basis.
Yeah, and absolutely right. And McKinsey describes that as I think there were a term for that, perpetual evolution. That's what McKinsey says, right, in one of the reports, which is the continuous nature of digital transformation that you just touched upon as well. That makes complete sense. Now, in terms of your role as a CTO in a digital native organization, such as Nimbla, what kind of challenges you encounter, when you kind of embark on this continuous journey of evolution? If you can just shed some light on that, that would be great.
So I'm thinking about my background. I've been in both sides, legacy companies as well as digital native companies. So thinking about that and of my experience, so I think there's a number of things that you've got to look at when it comes to digital transformation. I think one of the challenges most companies face are things like resistance to change. It's always a big one, and sometimes that comes directly from the top. Luckily in Nimble we don't have that, because our CEO started us up the cloud with this digital journey in mind. So our products are, I think, in the right frame at this stage to make sure that they're digital projects. But if you look at more legacy companies, your management sometimes is the challenge to try and get around, because they're still stuck in their legacy business models, and trying to get out of that legacy business model is quite a challenge. And sometimes they have to sort of, I can say, give up things that they're used to. So looking at revenue and things like that, they might have to change how they get their revenue in to be able to do a proper optimized business transformation. And if they do it correctly, eventually it is going to bring them in more revenue and streamline their business a lot more. But just getting their mindset around that is sometimes a major challenge. I think some of the other things that affect a lot of companies is knowledge and skills as well. So even if even in our situation where we are a digital company, sometimes it's just getting that through the company when you bring people on board or other people are in the company, trying to get them to understand the reasons why we do things in the digital way. They're still wanting to bring in manual processes and things like that, which is deviating from your digital journey. So it's educating them, giving them the knowledge that they need to understand the way it should be going forward as well. So not just the management, but everybody in the company needs to be aware of that. And then skill set is a good one. And especially for startups, if I can say that, when you're a startup, it's almost all hands on deck, and you do what you need to get your products out into the market. and it might not be perfect. And as you grow, as you scale, as you get more partners, you need to really look at that process and bring in the necessary skills to plug in gaps that are coming more and more evident as you grow. So sometimes that's a challenge as well, and especially when you're looking at cloud native, because there is a lack of skills out there on the cloud native side in certain areas. Whether you're talking about the security side of it, or whether you're talking about the actual usage of the tools that are available in a cloud and maximizing that usage. There is a lack of skills out there when it comes to those sort of areas.
Yeah. Go on.
Sorry, I was just going to say the final thing that I would say is a challenge is data. So if you think in the world, data is king. We all know that, and the more data you have, and that's what the world's changing to, is the more data you can gather about your customers and their journeys and their behaviors, the better you can service them. And although we're all getting all this data and this lovely rich stuff there, having a vision of how are you going to analyze that data and what you're trying to get out of that data is also a challenge. I think sometimes you can't see the wood for the trees, and traditional people thinking data, I need reports, but it's more than reports now. It's changed a lot over the years. And if you're still just using your data for reports, you're missing out on a huge chunk of information that you could be utilizing better to support your business.
Sure. So skills, technology partners, data, all these are like challenges, right? That you encounter day to day. That there is a general view, which I think is a myth, that digital native businesses are DIY, right? They like to do everything themselves and they don't need external support because they are all very super smart and they can do everything, right? What's your take on that? Do you think that you got everything that you can do or yourself, or do you rely on partners at Nimbla?
No, I think it's stupid to try and do everything yourself. You hit the nail on the head there with having a partner. So a very good cloud partner is very important. That helps you with the skills gap as well, and making sure that you're choosing the right thing. And I think a lot of companies are sort of, and especially your bigger companies, are sort of looking for trying to not put all the eggs in one basket and try and maximize that by having multiple cloud partners. But as a startup, you're only one-to-one, and you've got to choose the right one. So that's quite careful. And then the other thing is, why reinvent the wheel? If there is something out there that's already working correctly, why do you want to do it from scratch? Maximize as much as you can out there. Set up correct partnerships with people that have the tools and the software that you need, and build your systems around that.
Yeah. And also, I think there's an element of, cloud is always evolving, right? So how much can you keep up with while running the business as well, right? So that also comes into play. Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah. So what kind of attributes would you look for in a cloud partner that you would want to work with?
Well, somebody who wants to be a partner is a good step in the right direction. So you'll find a lot of service providers out there, and cloud providers as well. They don't give you that partnership level of relationship, if I can say that. You're just a number, and you can't get face to face with people. I think one of the things I found with Searce, which I really enjoy, is I can speak to people directly. I have to just put in a ticket and wait for somebody to finally get to me if I need something quick. And I mean, face it, in today's business world, and especially as a startup, I don't want to wait 2 days to get an answer from a service desk. I need something now, then I need to be able to pop off a message and hopefully get a reply as quickly as possible. Quite happy to go through service desks and things like that for bigger items, but now and again you need things and information at your fingertips. So you need a partner, somebody who understands your business, somebody who actually can support you through that and understand what challenges you're going through and when you need them and when you don't need them, basically. And to me, that's quite key as a partnership. I believe in partnerships rather than supplier relationships, because supplier relationships don't get me where I need to get. I want to build partnerships with people. I want to look at longevity with things like that. To be honest, in an IT area, when you are busy integrating with other software providers out there, it is a long thing. You're hooking that into your system and you're looking for long-term sustainability. and changing that partner or that supplier at any time in the future is kind of painful. So you want to try and avoid that as much as possible. So what you put in place has to have longevity.
Yeah, makes sense. My last question, and I'll hand over to Vish, for him to build on it. You mentioned that you have worked in both sides, large legacy organization as well as digital natives. What's your preference?
Being in IT, I love the digital natives, obviously, because we're at the top forefront of latest technology. It can get frustrating in a legacy environment, and especially depending on where they are with their transformation journey and whether they want to invest. I've been in some companies where they didn't want to go through with that investment into changing from a legacy system into a more digital native thing, and there is a lot of big companies that have done that, and I think they've become quite relevant in the COVID lockdown. A lot of them have had to close their doors because they just weren't able to sustain the changes as quickly as what was needed, and they lost their business. And it's very frustrating being in a business like that. However, you do get larger businesses who are quite keen on that and do have that sort of investment. They're quite fun to work for as well. But for me, I think my preference going through it all has been digital native, because, it's exciting. One of the reasons why I particularly personally went into IT was the fact that it's constantly changing. There's always something new to learn, and being on the forefront of that technology change is the exciting part to me.
Yeah, that wasn't hard to guess, but I wanted to hear it from you. So, all right, thanks so much, Hazel. Vish, any further builds from you?
Yeah, and definitely a couple of them here. I know the last year and a half have been very interesting, right? Especially with the COVID situation. You touched upon it briefly as well. Now, as a digital native, we've seen some of them really thrive in the situation and some of them kind of go down. But especially, we're seeing a lot of digital natives thrive in the situation, right? Can you talk about your journey through this COVID and how Nimbla has transformed through this last year and a half?
Yep. So I joined Nimbla after COVID had started, so only towards the end of last year, and everything was remote, which was really encouraging for me. Even my onboarding was remote, and it was as smooth and as seamless as possible. So a lot of my answers going to be based on what I saw, what they'd put in place up to that, not necessarily what I was involved in, but although I can tell you what I've been involved in since. So my understanding of what hits companies mostly, even the digital native ones, are number one is the change of the consumer and what they're doing. So this bricks and mortar that everybody had has sort of fallen away because everything's moved more online. And I think the digital native companies were better aligned to be able to handle that quicker and easier and simpler than your bigger, more legacy people that weren't fully digital native. And I found that with Nimbla as well. They done a very quick, seamless change over because they were already mostly online, and they managed to be able to support their customers or their staff as well, working from home, to be able to support their customers very quickly with just a flick of a switch, which was really great. So they were already in that arena and could manage it without too much hassles. I think one of the biggest challenges from a Nimbla point of view was getting the staff working from home and making sure we had the right equipment and the right security set up. And they've done a lot of work around that, which was really good. We have some legacy equipment still sitting in the office, which we need to give some thought to going forward, but they moved very swiftly and got everybody onto laptops so that they could work remotely very easily. Being all in the cloud also helped. So getting everybody set up remotely was very easy because it was all cloud-based. So we just had to have an internet connection, which most people do nowadays, especially in the UK. Everybody's got internet connections at home, so as long as you've got an internet connection, we can get onto any of our platforms, which is really good. And then they introduced strong security knowledge across the company. So if you think about what's hit most companies more from staff working from home is security. Ransomware, phishing attacks, the hackers have had a field day over COVID because people weren't aware of this, and the knowledge of the staff around security was quite limited. And when I talk about staff, I'm talking non-IT staff. Even IT staff is quite limited when it comes to some of the stuff from working remotely. But your administrative staff, your sales staff, the marketing staff, their knowledge of what can be considered as a security issue was not there. So they introduced something called KnowBe4. I don't know if you know the company called KnowBe4. They're quite security experts, and they offer this security training. So we put everybody through security training. We've still got it going now, and it's a regular thing. And then we simulate phishing attacks so people can understand what they are and how to recognize them. And the security training goes all around emails and communications being sent to people's PCs or their phones and things like that, and how to recognize them and how to block them when they get there. And then we also introduce things like remote VPNs and obviously antivirus softwares and things like that on everybody's devices. We brought in a bring your own device policy into play, so everybody understood how they could use their own devices as well as the company's devices. In place, a lot of people coming out of the office moved onto their own personal phones, and understanding the security risks that poses. Most people don't even consider that. But if you think you can pick up your work email on your personal phone just as well as you can on your work laptop, you get the same sort of security issues. So those sort of things were addressed as well. So I think overall Nimbla was in a very good state because they were an early door startup and they were cloud native, whereas a lot of other companies struggled. Or although if I say it, I mean, I think I read a report recently by McKinsey where they went to market and looked at what people had done, and they were saying that the way that companies had risen to the challenge of COVID-19 was fantastic to get everybody remote within a very relatively short period of time. And they were saying things like about 11 days to get everybody remote working, whereas the IT managers had said prior to that it was a 4-year program. It was like quite amazing. And then they also reckon that digital journeys within companies have sort of been improved by about 7 years, because of COVID, whereas journeys that would have taken 7 years are now already done in about a matter of months, just to try and get everybody there, which was fantastic. So overall, I think most companies that have kept their doors open have done an amazing job in managing COVID-19.
I completely agree with you. I kind of read a similar report as well, which talked about how remote healthcare has basically moved by 10 plus years in the last few months, just because of the situation being forced on it, right? Rather than just an organic evolution of things. And sometimes a little bit of pressure definitely brings the best out of the situation in itself. So that's definitely a good one.
I agree.
I don't have any more questions, but thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This was